Welcome back to Film-Studio-Taku-in-Japan. This is the Mitakon 85mm f1.2 lens in the GF mount for GFX cameras. Some assembly may be required. So obviously this is not how these lenses come to you, but I think that this is something that needs to be known and talked about. Is Mitakon lenses recently, it seems, in the last year and a half or so, have been having quality control issues. And a lot of people with the 65mm lens and this 85mm lens have been having issues like focus rings that just start spinning and never stopping. Aperture, the same thing. And some lenses just coming completely apart. Now for me it was a little different. What originally happened is, I'm going to sort of put this back together for just a moment. This is essentially what the lens is like from the factory, with the exception of this, which actually the piece I just put in goes on top of this, and this is backwards actually. I don't actually want to put that in the right way though, because it's covered with grease if you can't see that. And that's actually how it was when I took it out. Kind of strange, because that's the housing that holds the filter and it's not supposed to spin around. But for me, that started spinning freely. Strange, right? But I was lucky because it wasn't the aperture, it wasn't the focus ring. There was no real optical effect or performance effect other than when I'm holding it, it's just wiggling around and doesn't feel secure in my hand. So needless to say though, when it happened, I was very concerned because the aperture is right behind the lens here, or behind that barrel. So I did very carefully got this off, and I want to show you now. So you should always buy dedicated lens tools, and I do have one that is similar style to a compass, but it has a basically screw thread here and two little nuts that let you secure it into a position. The better type are like 2x2, like a checkerboard, or a tic-tac-toe board kind of, where you can really secure it. You hold it with your whole hand and turn it. This lens, the problem is I don't have extendable pieces that would have fit in here when the barrel's on. However, this actual compass I have, I do not recommend doing this. I'm just telling you this is how I got in there, because it's so easy to slip. And I have a couple times slipped, but I know that there's a risk. Right now it's obviously very loose, so it's going to turn very freely. But if I was just like that, it's going to slip out very, very quickly. Regardless. What I want to show you though, first of all, I just thought it was interesting to see a little bit the internals of this lens. Sorry for the noise. Keep that over there. I am filming with a Nikon Z50 with a Tamron 35mm f1.8, by the way. I do have the autofocus on because my hands are moving around. It may have some problems here. I don't have the autofocus on the GFX that I'm filming the main shot here with, because the focus point is basically here. You don't need to see my eyes in perfect focus. Anyways, this lens that never ever stops coming out, there we go, is very, very simple in construction, and that's the silver lining here with these lenses and their control issues. And you can see right there, that is the aperture. Beautiful aperture. I believe it's, is it 11 blades or 9 blades? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 11. So yeah, so it let me access the aperture, which is nice. And I could even get in there and I can clean the element very carefully. You want to be very careful with aperture blades. Don't mess with them. If your aperture has problems, send it into a professional, unless you are a professional. Don't watch just some YouTube video that says, oh, here's the 5-minute fix for aperture blades. There are some sites you can go to that are legit, but whatever. I'm not gonna flood them with a bunch of people. So, anyways, originally what I did though is I ditched this because it's free floating anyways, And this lens is known on the GFX system to vignette. This is made for full frame. It's not originally a GFX lens or medium format lens, unlike the 65mm. And that's why most people tout the 65mm as being the superior lens. I got this lens because I know what a 50mm, a 65 is basically a 50mm on GFX. And I like nifty 50s, but they're not my favorite focal length. This gave me just a little bit more reach, a little bit more compression, and I was okay with a little vignetting. And honestly, the price was right. I got a very good deal on it, and I thought, you know what, just try it out, see what the ultimate shallow depth of field would be like, because it's a f.95 equivalent on GFX, which is pretty astonishing. But so I had a little bit of an inkling of a suspicion that maybe this was partially responsible for vignetting. So what I did at that time, all I had, God, that thing is sticky. Anyways, all I had was this, kind of a little lens hood, a metal one that I bought for another lens. And it just so happened, though, that it fit basically perfectly in there. But when you actually have this element in there, not so much. What I did was I extended it with this, which is just a cutout from a Q-tip container holder. Then when I did that, I very carefully arranged this so they were tightly together. I'm really not going to do it right now because I'm going to show you much better stuff. But then you put this back in, and then you definitely need some tool to get deep enough in there to screw it in. But you screw it in, and this actually compresses it enough to hold it. Now it does still spin a bit, not as much as that original one was. I'm trying to keep everything in my little frame here, by the way, with a Z50. I hope it's working. So anyways, I was using that for several months that way, and it was fine. There was no problems. But when I see little metal hoods a lot of times I pick them up at, we say recycle shops in Japan, but thrift stores. I pick them up because I like the metal hoods, and you never know when one of these is going to fit something that you have or help you to extend, get more blocking the sun, or maybe a filter you don't have the right thread size and it helps you out. And they're usually so cheap, like less than $3. This one, in fact, was $3, and this is what I picked up very recently. And it's actually a Nikon one. I just looked it up finally to see what it was because I'm looking for a filter for it. I don't have that size. I need a step-up ring. Tamron, you're trying to focus on that, aren't you? Okay. So it's, let's see if Tamron can show it there. It's the HN28, and it's actually for the, I think, 80 to 200 millimeter older AFS lens. Anyways, but it's perfect. It was in the box, and it's just mint condition, and I was like, I wonder. And it actually, you hear that? Like, it's so tight in there, but it still allows the aperture to move. You hear a little bit of noise there, right? Exact same thing, though. You have to put this in and then screw it back together. We're going to get there. We're going to reassemble this, and if you would like to try what I've done, you can try and reverse it. I thought about taking it apart and doing it that way, but I don't want to make a twice as long video because I'm trying to do this within the 30-minute record limit of this Z50 so I don't have to start over. Anyways, the reason it's in pieces, though, because that's actually working really, really well, and it looks so nice. It looks better than the lens looks out of the factory. It really looks nice on this. But anyways, recently, very recently, I suddenly notice it's not there, and I'm going to show you. I meant to do this before the video. I'm going to do this as accurately as possible. But anyways, there are 3 screws in here, which obviously I did not know were there. I had hoped when I started having this problem. One of these screws was extraordinarily loose, like basically ready to fall out. 2 of them needed a full turn and a half or so, and one of them, if I tighten it, it just spins. It's stripped the thread. So what we're going to do here, though, I'll show you about what it was, okay? This one would have been much looser. Can you hear that? Yeah. So it was like that as I was shooting, and it was raining too. You just know it's not weather sealed. But yeah, I pushed my gear. But I was like, okay, that's not good. It might just fall apart in the rain. And it's a heavy lens. If it hits the ground, there's a good chance of elements getting broken. So that day, after I took it home, I let it dehumidify. If you take a manual lens, it can happen with weather sealed lenses too, but it got a little bit of condensation in there. I took it home, and all I had to do was take off the rear mount with 4 screws. And then once I got in there, I thought it was going to be fairly complicated. This thing here, basically I unscrewed it. Is that the right way? But except for, yeah, there we go. I thought I was unscrewing it, like it seemed like it was unscrewing, but it actually is not even threaded. It just sits in there. So it's held in by, excuse me. What is it held in there by? That's the question of the day. Was it screwed in? Does it have a thread that I'm unaware of? There is no thread on that. How on earth it is staying in there? Well, we're gonna tell you what, before we do it, because the point is here, we are gonna reassemble it. You will see I marked little orange dots here. I used for that, oh, did it disappear? I used a Posca marker, which is like a little paint marker. There's better things to use. I don't have them. I put it towards the edges because if it does affect the coatings, it's not going to be as bad. And this rear element, since I bought it, since new, it's had some separation in the outer edges, so it's already got issues there, and it's not going to be a big deal. So, and I've used those in the past to mark lenses. I haven't personally noticed any problems. Anyways, now though, going from here, wiggle wiggle like I was shooting with, we will simply tighten these again, but this time we're actually going to take them out one at a time, not all of them, because we don't want this whole lens to just suddenly fall apart on us. And if you don't know working on lenses, sometimes like you think, oh, this screw can come out, and you take it out, and lo and behold, the whole thing just falls apart. And this screw doesn't seem to want to come out. Yeah. In this situation, don't mess with it. What I want to do though, if any of these come out, is I want to put some thread locker, also known brand name Loctite is the famous one. But I want to put some thread locker on here, because yeah, this one here is just spinning and spinning. That's why that one's not coming out. So let's see if any of these we can get out and actually get some thread locker on there to get them, because I can get it tight enough that I feel a little bit more comfortable, but getting it to a point where, no, yeah, I don't like that one bit. The simplicity of this lens, I can probably just take this whole thing off and nothing will be affected because the aperture is up here. But for the sake of this video, we're not going to do that, because I want to have a success here. And what I will likely do though is I will likely do a secondary video to see if we can get the Loctite in here. Yeah, so I'll tell you, out of the 4, there's actually 4 screws in here. I thought it was 3, but it's 4. Out of the 4, 1, this one 2, 2, 3 do actually tighten. And I don't want to push them because I obviously don't want to have the same issue as this one. But this one right here is just freely spinning. But now, just doing that, there's still some play here. We'll do just less than a quarter turn on each of these to see if we can just get that play to go away. It might just be from that one screw. It's better, but there's still time. That's pretty good. I think the only play now is actually coming from the focus ring itself, which is pretty normal. So, now, if we're doing this legit, okay, I'm going to go back through and do this again. What you want to do is, ideally while you have it open is, I mean, obviously you want to clean off these marks. Take a lens cloth or lens tissue and use some lens cleaner and clean it off while you're in here. Now, I haven't actually removed that element, so there's no reason to take it out and clean the other side. Other thing, by the way, when you're working on these, don't do what I do here. Have your aperture closed because less debris is going to get in there while you're doing this. So reassembly, and my little custom hack here. Simply, apparently, with no glue. And the reason for these marks in here, by the way, was in case this came out, I wanted to mark up everything to where everything goes in the exact same way, because sometimes the element is directional. So even though it's a circular thing, it's actually meant to go only one way. And if you don't do that, your optics are not going to be functioning the way they're intended to. You might actually have some distortion or ill effects. So yeah, there's one with 3, and there's one with 2, and one with 1. And I can barely see them, but that's them right there. So yeah, this piece, like I said, we can try to see if it has some magic thread that we don't see, but no, it really doesn't. It just sits like that. Friction apparently is holding this together, which is very interesting. So this one as well is marked. If I can find it. Yep, there we go. Okay, so there's a single mark. There's 1, 2, 3 marks. I don't know if you can see those. And I can see right here, there's my 3 marks, and there's also a mark for the actual official red mark right next to the 3 marks, because I really wanted to make sure. Obviously, those are the ones I want to have be correct. It matters because your lens is going to be upside down if you don't do that. I would definitely do it the right way if I were you, though. So, I am not a professional repairman for lenses by any means. I want to make sure that's absolutely clear. And anything like this is at your own risk. Please understand that. I'm fairly comfortable doing this because I used to work on a lot of old FD lenses. I used to get very, very cheap here. I still have a whole drawer full of them, and I'd like to start working on them and really learning how to work on them soon. But this lens, again, I got it for a very good deal, and I use it a lot. And if it doesn't function, if it falls apart, it's worth nothing to me. So it's worth the chance to get in here. I mean, to ship it, to get it repaired would cost a lot. To try and have our actual repair shop do it, if they would even do it, because it's a Chinese lens, and Japanese companies tend to be a little standoffish with Chinese products. Regardless. Okay, so we got this rear back on, and let's see. You hear that though, right? That's crazy talk right there. Am I missing something? Is there a screw that's supposed to hold it in? I see 2 little tiny screws right here that maybe just weren't tight now, and those are smaller than this. JIS screwdrivers, by the way, apparently coveted by lens repair people and camera repair people. Yeah, I have no idea why that's so freely spinning. What did I do? I will look into that, but for the time being, we're just going to accept that spins because it doesn't actually have any real function. It's just to reduce it's matte so that the light coming into it doesn't reflect off here and create problems. So this side now, I'll show you the customization. The problem here though is similar to here where this is spinning freely and we don't know why. So when that original piece broke, there was no evident hardware that was holding this in there. So it started spinning freely, presumably maybe because something very similar where it had to be compressed just right, and over time it loosened up and simply didn't hold, or maybe there was some glue holding it in there. I really, really don't know. The bottom line is it didn't work, and it led me to, and I forgot to mention the point, by the way. With this one and with this one, because this one's slightly larger, vignetting is almost completely gone. It does appear when you're in certain aperture ranges or shooting distances, but in general, it's gone. Now, I am going to go through and clean this whole thing up again after this, but look how easy this is. So this goes here, And then very, very carefully, this goes in here. More carefully than that. But yeah, get it. Just make sure it's lined up. And then very, very gently, you want to wiggle it around a little bit until you find the thread. If you have more professional, like giant, they look like suction cups that lens repair people use. I have them, but not for this size. So there you go, it slips right there. That's how you can scratch your lens. But the best way to do this actually is upside down, but I'm trying to show you how it's actually going. Of course, upside down it has a very big risk of falling out because it's such a massive element. But here we go. It's screwing in. Yes, I'm going to take it all out and clean it again. I've said that like 4 times now. Truth is, I intend to do it with this video, but I'm situated here. I don't want to go looking around because I had to turn off the air conditioning to do this video, and it's getting hot already. And I think we're going to make it by that 30-minute time limit easily. So here we go. It's better just to keep your hands more or less relaxed, because if you try to push it in hard to make sure it doesn't slip, the problem there is if it does slip, you're much, much likelier to damage it. And I've been following a camera and lens repair forum enough to know that even the professionals sometimes destroy front elements on very nice lenses that are impossible or next to impossible to get replacements for. So there we go. Look at that. And this little orange piece of paint. So that's that. Now look, does that not look really nice? Yes, it spins. Definitely I could change that. What I would need to do is put a piece, a shim, something. Yeah, see, it won't go really any tighter than that, and I'm not gonna test my luck. But even just doing that though, it did tighten up a little bit, but it's fine. If it spins, I don't care. Aperture works. You just hear a tiny bit rubbing right here. It actually always had a rubbing sound, as does you can hear right there. I don't know if you can hear that, but the focus ring has always had a rubbing sound. Non-vignetting for the most part now. Mitakon 85mm f1.2. Again, the great news is, though there are quality control issues, and I recommend getting insurance for this lens if you're not comfortable doing this, or just because if enough people send in these lenses with insurance claims, maybe stores like B&H and Adorama will be more hesitant to deal with this company, and they may step up their quality control. It's really a shame, because optically this is an amazing lens. It is a very simple element setup in here, and for that reason there is, yes, 3D pop, and yes, just a stellar image, very, very sharp. The bokeh is amazing. I mean, with GFX, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, just with a little bit of editing, I have people popping out of the image where I have to back it down so much. Otherwise, it just looks... Fake's not the right word, but it looks like an impossible image where I think everybody's just going to be like, oh, that's AI or whatever, because it's just over the top. Anyways, not bad. Not bad. Not impossible. I do recommend this lens if you're, again, okay with what I just did. Very carefully. Get the right tools, better tools than what I have. Get insurance. And to do this, by the way, that's the catch, because there is no hardware that made this loose. Again, I'm not recommending this. I'm just telling you, maybe the only way to do it is to make that front piece break. And how do you do that? I have no clue. I mean, I have some ideas, but I'm not going to start suggesting there, because I don't want to be the one that breaks your lens. So that's it. I feel like I'm talking to this camera, even though I'm talking to this camera here. But yeah, let me know if this was useful, okay? I do, like I said, I have a whole drawer right next to me of Canon FD lenses, as well as some other older lenses, and I do plan on going through them. I think at the time I tried to fix a few, and like maybe 1 out of 3 I had success with, and I kind of didn't want to destroy them all. But now, as I'm maybe a little more patient and learning a little bit more, it's doable, and a lot of FD lenses actually work pretty well on the GFX system, so that's a big incentive right there. it might be fun to take out some funky lenses and play with them. Thank you for watching Film Studio Taku Japan. Let's see. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.